Millionaire abandons his fiancée and runs away with the maid. He discovered everything. Subscribe to receive more exciting stories. The sun was setting on the horizon, painting the sky with shades of orange and pink that reflected on the calm waters of Lake Tahoe. On the winding road that bordered the lake, a yellow Ferrari cut through the landscape like a golden bolt, its powerful roar echoing through the Sierra Nevada mountains. At the wheel was Ethan Blackwood, heir to one of the largest classic car collections in America. His eyes, normally lively and bright, were now cloudy and reddened. A half-empty whiskey bottle dangerously swayed on the passenger seat, a silent witness to the pain consuming him. Just a few hours ago, Ethan had experienced the greatest disappointment of his life. He had been left by Olivia, his fiancée, at the dinner where he planned to ask for her hand in marriage. "How could she do this to me?" he muttered, as he pressed the accelerator even harder. The speedometer climbed, as did his anger and frustration. 3 years together, all thrown away because of a damn contract. Lost in his bitter thoughts, Ethan barely noticed when a deer suddenly appeared on the road. With a startled cry, he sharply turned the wheel, causing the car to skid dangerously. By a miracle, he managed to regain control of the vehicle, stopping on the shoulder with his heart pounding. "Damn it!" he cursed, hitting his hands on the steering wheel. It was then that he noticed a slight burning smell coming from the engine. He got out of the car, stumbling, and opened the hood. A cloud of smoke greeted him, making him cough and wave his hands frantically. Desperate and not knowing what to do, Ethan took his cell phone from his pocket. His trembling fingers slid through the contact list until they stopped on Olivia's name. Without thinking twice, he pressed the call button. On the other end of the line, a soft and slightly sleepy voice answered, "Hello?" Ethan, drunk and confused, didn't realize that the voice wasn't Olivia's, but rather Sophia's, the young maid who worked at the mansion where his ex-fiancée lived. "Olivia, please help me," he begged, his voice choked. I almost had an accident. The car's having trouble and I don't know what to do." Sophia, immediately recognizing Ethan's voice, felt her heart race. For months, she had nurtured secret feelings for the charming heir, admiring him from afar whenever he visited the mansion. Now he was asking for her help, even if by mistake. "Where are you?" she asked, deciding not to reveal her true identity at that moment. Maybe it was the only chance she would have to get close to him. Ethan described his location as best he could, and Sophia promised she would arrive soon. Hanging up the phone, she hesitated for a moment, aware that she was about to get involved in a potentially complicated situation, but concern for Ethan's well-being overcame any apprehension. Quickly, Sophia grabbed a toolbox that belonged to the mansion's gardener and left, driving the modest Ford Focus she had inherited from her father. The journey to where Ethan was seemed endless, each second amplifying her anxiety and expectation. When she finally spotted the yellow Ferrari on the shoulder, Sophia felt a mix of relief and nervousness. She parked behind the sports car and got out, carrying the toolbox. Ethan, leaning against the side of the Ferrari, raised his eyes upon hearing the approaching footsteps. For a moment, he was confused to see not Olivia, but a young woman of simple appearance, dressed in jeans and a t-shirt, her brown hair tied in a messy ponytail. "Who are you?" he asked, his voice still slurred from alcohol. Sophia hesitated for a moment before responding, "It's me. I came to help you with the car." Still confused, Ethan watched her approach the open hood. To his surprise, Sophia began to examine the engine with a skill he would never have expected from Olivia. "Looks like the problem is with the belt," she said after a few minutes of analysis. "I can fix it temporarily, but you'll need to take it to a garage as soon as possible." Ethan watched, dumbfounded, as Sophia worked on the engine with dexterity and confidence. Her movements were precise, her skilled hands maneuvering the tools with ease. It was as if she had done this her entire life. Where did you learn to do this?" he asked, genuinely impressed. Sophia smiled without taking her eyes off the work. "My dad was a mechanic. I grew up helping in his shop." As Sophia worked, Ethan felt his initial confusion transform into admiration. There was something about her simplicity and competence that intrigued him, awakening feelings he couldn't explain. When she finally closed the hood, her hands were dirty with grease, but her face displayed a satisfied smile. "There, that should hold until you get home." "Thank you," said Ethan, suddenly feeling sober. I don't know what I would have done without you." Sophia blushed slightly under his intense gaze. "It was nothing." I'm happy to help. An awkward silence settled between them, broken only by the distant sound of the lake waters. Ethan found himself lost in Sophia's brown eyes, noticing for the first time the sweetness and sincerity that emanated from them. "It's getting late," Sophia finally said, breaking the enchantment of the moment. "You shouldn't drive in this state. Why don't you rest a bit before heading home?" Ethan nodded, suddenly aware of how tired and emotionally exhausted he was. "You're right, but could you stay with me? Just for a while? I don't want to be alone right now." Sophia knew she should refuse, that she was getting involved in something much bigger than she could handle. But seeing the vulnerability in Ethan's eyes, she couldn't say no. "Of course," she answered softly. "I'll stay with you." As the two sat by the lake watching the stars that began to dot the night sky, Sophia felt her heart beating strongly in her chest. She knew that night would change her life forever, but she had no idea how much. Ethan, still under the influence of alcohol but with a clearer mind after the scare of the near accident, looked at Sophia with a mixture of curiosity and gratitude. There was something about her, an authenticity that intrigued and attracted him in a way he couldn't explain. "You know," he began, breaking the silence, "I never thought I'd be here tonight. I had other plans, plans that I thought would change my life forever." Sophia looked at him tenderly, feeling the weight of sadness in his voice. "Sometimes life has different plans than ours," she responded softly. Ethan let out a bitter laugh. "Yeah, it seems so. I was going to propose to Olivia today. I had everything planned. The dinner, the ring, even the speech I would make. But she simply said she couldn't continue with me." Sophia's heart tightened hearing those words. She knew about Ethan's relationship with Olivia, of course, but hearing the pain in his voice made her want to comfort him somehow. "I'm sorry," she murmured, gently placing her hand on his. Sophia's soft touch sent an electric current through Ethan's body. He looked at their joined hands, feeling a connection he hadn't expected. "The strangest thing is that," he continued, his voice low and reflective, "now that I'm here, talking to you, it's as if a weight has been lifted from my shoulders, as if somehow I were exactly where I should be." Sophia felt her heart race at these words. She knew she was getting involved in something dangerous, that Ethan was confusing her with Olivia, but she couldn't pull away. There was a magnetic force between them, something that went beyond logic or reason. "Sometimes the most important moments of our lives happen when we least expect them," she said, her voice almost a whisper. Ethan stared at her, his eyes seeking hers in the dimness. "Who are you really?" he asked, as if seeing Sophia for the first time. "There's something about you that makes me feel different, at peace." Sophia felt a knot form in her throat. It was the moment to reveal the truth, to confess that she wasn't Olivia, that she was just the mansion's maid. But the words got stuck, the fear of breaking that magical moment preventing her from speaking. "I'm someone who cares about you," she finally answered, opting for a half-truth. Ethan smiled, a genuine smile that lit up his face and made Sophia's heart leap. "You know, I always thought I knew what I wanted from life. Money, status, a marriage that would unite two powerful families. But now I'm not sure of anything." He stood up, extending his hand to help Sophia. When she stood, their bodies were dangerously close. Ethan could smell her soft perfume, a simple and natural fragrance that intoxicated him more than any expensive champagne. "Maybe," he said, his voice hoarse with emotion, "maybe what I really need is someone who sees me for who I am, not for what I have." Sophia felt her breath falter. She knew she should step away, that this whole situation was a misunderstanding that would only lead to heartache, but her body didn't obey, drawn by the gravity of the moment. "Ethan, she began, but was interrupted when he gently placed a finger on her lips. "Shh," he whispered. "Don't say anything, just stay here with me. Please." And so they stayed, embraced by the lakeside, the moonlight reflecting on the calm waters as a silent witness to that unlikely encounter. Sophia knew she was falling more and more in love, diving into a dream from which she would soon have to wake up. Ethan in turn felt reborn, as if he were discovering a new version of himself in the arms of this mysterious woman. The hours passed like seconds, the night enveloping them in its magic. They talked about dreams, fears, hopes. Ethan spoke about the pressure of being the heir to an empire, the weight of expectations. Sophia, careful not to reveal her true identity, shared stories of her simple childhood, of lessons learned with her father in the mechanic shop. When the first rays of sun began to tinge the horizon, both knew that night was coming to an end. A gentle melancholy hovered over them, the mutual understanding that dawn would bring with it a return to reality. "I will never forget this night," said Ethan, his eyes fixed on Sophia's. "You saved me in more ways than you can imagine." Sophia felt tears forming in her eyes. "I will never forget either," she replied, her voice choked with emotion. Reluctantly, they separated. Ethan, now sober and invigorated, got into his Ferrari. Sophia watched as he started the engine, the powerful roar breaking the morning silence. "Will we see each other again?" he asked, a note of hope in his voice. Sophia smiled, a bittersweet smile. "Fate has its own plans," she answered enigmatically. As the Ferrari drove away, Sophia remained standing, watching until the yellow car disappeared around the bend in the road. Her heart was divided between the joy of that magical night and the weight of the secret she now carried. Returning to her own car, Sophia knew her life would never be the same. What had begun as a misunderstanding had transformed into something deep and real, but the complications that would come with dawn were inevitable, and she feared the moment when the bubble of fantasy in which they had lived during the night would finally burst. With a sigh, she started the old Ford Focus, leaving behind the scene of her improvised fairy tale. Ahead of her, the sun was rising over Lake Tahoe, promising a new day full of challenges and, who knows, new possibilities. The morning sun was already high when Sophia quietly entered the Maxwell mansion, where she worked as a maid. Her heart was still pounding with memories of the previous night, but reality was beginning to impose itself with full force. She knew she had to act normally, as if nothing had happened. As she headed to the kitchen to start her daily tasks, Sophia was surprised by the cold voice of Olivia Maxwell, her employer and Ethan's ex-fiancée. "Where were you all night, Sophia?" The young maid felt a chill run down her spine. Turning slowly, she faced Olivia, impeccably dressed in a navy blue suit, her penetrating eyes fixed on her with a mixture of suspicion and irritation. I had a family emergency, ma'am," Sophia stammered, hating herself for lying, but seeing no other way out. "My aunt fell ill and I had to go to her house." Olivia raised an eyebrow, clearly skeptical. "Interesting. And I assume this emergency has something to do with the fact that Ethan didn't show up for dinner last night." Sophia felt the blood freeze in her veins. How could Olivia know? Had someone seen them together? "I don't understand, ma'am. What does Mr. Blackwood have to do with this?" Sophia tried to keep her voice steady, but she could feel the tremor in her words. Olivia approached, her high heels echoing on the marble floor. "Don't play dumb, Sophia. I know very well that Ethan called here last night, and curiously, you disappeared right after." Sophia's mind worked frantically, trying to find a way out of that situation. She couldn't reveal the truth, couldn't betray the trust that Ethan had placed in her, even if by mistake. "Ma'am, I swear I don't know what you're talking about. I really was with my aunt," Sophia insisted, praying that her voice wouldn't betray her. Olivia studied her for a long moment, her eyes cold as ice. Finally, she said, "Very well, Sophia. I'll believe you. For now. But remember, in this house I see and hear everything. If I find out you're lying to me, the consequences will be severe." "Understood." Sophia swallowed hard and nodded. "Yes, ma'am, I understand perfectly." With one last penetrating look, Olivia turned and left the kitchen, leaving Sophia trembling and with her heart racing. The young maid leaned on the sink, trying to catch her breath and calm her nerves. Meanwhile, at the Blackwood mansion, Ethan woke up with a strange sensation. The memories of the previous night floated in his mind like a hazy dream. He remembered Olivia leaving him, drinking too much, the near accident, and then, like a ray of light amidst the darkness, he remembered her, the mysterious woman who had helped him, who had spent the night talking to him by the lake. Sitting up in bed, Ethan frowned, trying to organize his thoughts. Something wasn't right. The woman he had spent the night with, to whom he had opened his heart, wasn't Olivia. But then who was she? Determined to unravel the mystery, Ethan got up and dressed quickly. He needed to talk to Olivia, to clarify things. Maybe she could shed some light on what had happened. Meanwhile, at the Maxwell mansion, Sophia tried to concentrate on her tasks. but her mind kept going back to the previous night. Ethan's gentle touch, the sound of his voice, the connection they had shared. Everything seemed so real, so right. But now, in the light of day, she realized how complicated the situation she had gotten herself into was. The sound of the doorbell pulled her from her reverie. Sophia headed to the front door, her heart almost stopping when she saw who was on the other side. Ethan Blackwood, looking determined and slightly confused. "Good morning," he said, his eyes scanning Sophia's face with a mixture of recognition and uncertainty. I need to speak with Olivia. Is she here?" Sophia felt as if the ground had disappeared beneath her feet. There he was, the man with whom she had spent the most magical night of her life, and he barely recognized her. She opened her mouth to respond, but was interrupted by Olivia's voice coming from the hallway. "Ethan, what are you doing here?" Olivia appeared beside Sophia, her face a mask of surprise and something that looked like guilt. Ethan looked from Olivia to Sophia, an expression of growing confusion on his face. I came to talk about last night, about what happened after you left the restaurant." Olivia shot a quick, sharp look at Sophia before turning to Ethan. "Of course, let's talk in the study. Sophia, bring us coffee, please." As Olivia guided Ethan into the house, Sophia remained standing at the door, feeling as if she were watching a movie in which she was, at the same time, the protagonist and a helpless spectator. In the study, Ethan sat across from Olivia, his mind a jumble of thoughts and emotions. "Olivia, what happened last night? After you left, I met someone who helped me, who spent the night with me. I thought it was you, but now I'm not sure of anything." Olivia observed him for a moment, her calculating eyes assessing the situation. Finally, she spoke, her voice soft and controlled. "Ethan, darling, you were very upset last night. I'm sure your mind is playing tricks on you. Why don't we forget all this and start over? I made a mistake in leaving you at that restaurant. We can overcome this together." Ethan stared at her, feeling a pang of distrust. Olivia's words sounded empty, nothing like the deep connection he had felt the night before. At that moment, Sophia entered the study carrying a tray with coffee. Her eyes met Ethan's for a brief instant, and he felt a spark of recognition. There was something in those eyes, something familiar. Olivia, noticing the exchange of glances, quickly dismissed Sophia. "That's all, Sophia. You can go now." As Sophia left the study, Ethan felt a strange sensation, as if he were letting something important slip through his fingers. He turned to Olivia, determined to get to the bottom of this story. "Olivia, I need to know the truth. What really happened last night?" The air in the study became heavy with unresolved tension and unrevealed secrets. Outside, Sophia pressed her back against the wall, her heart beating erratically. She knew she was at the epicenter of a storm about to break, and she had no idea how she would come out of that situation unscathed. As the day progressed, the three protagonists of this drama found themselves trapped in a web of lies, unspoken desires, and hidden truths. The stage was set for revelations that would change their lives forever, and none of them could predict the emotional whirlwind that was to come. The silence in the Maxwell Mansion study was palpable. Ethan stared at Olivia, his eyes searching for answers she seemed reluctant to give. Outside, Sophia remained motionless, her heart beating so loudly she feared it could be heard through the door. "Olivia," Ethan began, his voice firm, "something happened last night, something that changed everything for me. And I need to understand what it was." Olivia adjusted herself in her chair, her face a mask of composure. "Ethan, darling, you were upset. You drank too much, became distraught after I left the restaurant. It's understandable that your memory is confused." But Ethan wasn't convinced. There was a clarity in his memories of the previous night, a sense of truth that he couldn't ignore. "No, Olivia. I remember every moment, every word exchanged, the feeling of finally being seen, of being understood." Olivia's eyes narrowed almost imperceptibly. "And who exactly do you think saw and understood you so well?" Before Ethan could answer, the study door opened abruptly. Sophia entered carrying a tray with water and glasses. Her eyes met Ethan's for a brief moment, and in that instant something clicked in his mind. "You," he exclaimed, standing up suddenly. "It was you who was with me last night." The glass Sophia was holding slipped from her trembling fingers, shattering on the floor. Olivia stood up, her face a mixture of fury and disbelief. "What's going on here?" she demanded, looking from Ethan to Sophia. Sophia, feeling the weight of the gazes upon her, knew there was no longer any way to escape the truth. With a trembling sigh, she began, I can explain." In the minutes that followed, Sophia revealed everything. How Ethan had called by mistake, how she decided to help him, fearing for his safety, how they spent the night talking by the lake, sharing dreams and fears. Ethan listened, mesmerized, the pieces of the puzzle finally falling into place. Olivia, on the other hand, seemed about to explode with anger. "You lied to me," Olivia accused, pointing a finger at Sophia. "You betrayed my trust." "And you," Ethan retorted, turning to Olivia. "Why did you leave the restaurant yesterday? Why did you try to make me believe nothing had happened?" Olivia's face paled. She knew she was cornered, that her own lies were about to come to light. With a defeated sigh, she sank into the chair. "I received a call yesterday before dinner," Olivia confessed. "It was from the company board. They want me to take over as CEO. But for that, I would need to move to New York immediately." Ethan stared at her, incredulous. "And you chose your career over our relationship, without even talking to me?" Olivia raised her chin, defiant. "You don't understand, Ethan. This is the opportunity of my life, something I've been working towards for years. And our marriage? Our plans?" Ethan questioned, his voice laden with hurt. "They would be an obstacle," Olivia responded coldly. "The board made it clear they need someone fully committed to the company, without distractions." The silence that followed was deafening. Ethan looked at Olivia as if seeing her for the first time, realizing how distant their values and priorities truly were. Sophia, feeling like an intruder in this intimate moment, made a motion to leave the study. But Ethan stopped her with a gentle gesture. "Wait," he asked. Turning to Olivia, he continued, "I think we have nothing more to say to each other. You've made your choice, and I've made mine." Olivia stood up abruptly, her eyes flashing with anger. "You can't be serious, Ethan. You're going to throw away years of relationship because of one night with a maid." Olivia's words hit Sophia like a slap. She felt tears spring to her eyes, shame and humiliation burning in her chest. But before she could react, Ethan stepped forward, placing himself between Sophia and Olivia. "Don't you dare speak to her like that," he said, his voice low and dangerous. "Sophia showed more compassion and authenticity in one night than you have in years of relationship." Olivia recoiled, shocked by the intensity in Ethan's words. She looked from one to the other, finally realizing that she had lost not only a fiancé, but also control of the situation. "Get out," she hissed. "Both of you, get out of my house now." Ethan didn't hesitate. Taking Sophia's hand, he guided her out of the study, leaving Olivia alone with her anger and regret. In the mansion's hallway, away from Olivia's accusing eyes, Ethan and Sophia finally allowed themselves to breathe. They looked at each other, a mixture of relief, fear, and hope in their gazes. "And now?" asked Sophia, her voice barely above a whisper. Ethan smiled, a genuine smile that lit up his eyes. "Now we start over. No lies, no masks, just the two of us being who we really are." As they left the Maxwell mansion, hand in hand, Ethan and Sophia felt they were on the threshold of something new and exciting. The future was uncertain, full of challenges and obstacles they would have to face. But for the first time in a long time, both felt truly free. Outside, the sun shone brightly, as if celebrating the new beginning. The streets of Lake Tahoe awaited them, ready to witness the unfolding of this unlikely love story, born from a misunderstanding and nurtured by authenticity. Meanwhile, in the mansion they were leaving behind, Olivia watched from the study window, her face a mask of conflicting emotions. She had won the corporate world, but at what cost? The loneliness of success was beginning to weigh on her, and for the first time she wondered if she had made the right choice. Fate had shuffled the cards, revealing hidden truths and genuine feelings. Now it was up to each of them to decide how to play the hand they had been dealt, in a game where the prize was nothing less than true happiness. "I apologize for the confusion. You're right, and I'll continue translating the story from where I left off. Thank you for your patience." The yellow Ferrari cut through the streets of Lake Tahoe with Ethan at the wheel and Sophia by his side. The silence between them was comfortable, laden with unspoken promises and unexplored possibilities. As the city passed in a colorful blur through the window, both wondered where they would go from here. Ethan was the first to break the silence. "Sophia," he began, his voice soft, "I know all this is crazy. We've known each other for less than 24 hours, but I feel like I've known you for a lifetime." Sophia smiled, a mix of happiness and apprehension in her eyes. "I feel that too, Ethan. But what now? What do we do?" He slowed down, parking the car by the lake. The same lake where the night before they had shared their dreams and fears. Turning to her, Ethan took her hands in his. "Now we start over. No lies, no expectations imposed by others. Just the two of us discovering who we really are and what we want from life." Sophia's eyes filled with tears. "But Ethan, our worlds are so different. You're an heir. You have responsibilities. A life I can barely imagine, and I'm just a maid." Ethan shook his head vehemently. "No, Sophia, you're much more than that. You're the person who saw beyond the facade, who made me question everything I thought I wanted in life. And as for responsibilities, maybe it's time for me to decide which ones are truly mine." At that moment, Ethan's cell phone rang, interrupting the moment. He looked at the screen and sighed. "It's my father." Reluctantly, he answered, putting it on speakerphone. The grave voice of Richard Blackwood filled the car. "Ethan, where the hell are you? We have a crucial meeting with investors in an hour." Ethan closed his eyes for a moment, as if gathering courage. "Dad, I'm not coming to the meeting." There was a moment of stunned silence on the other end of the line. "What? Have you gone crazy?" "This meeting could define the future of the company." "Exactly, Dad," Ethan replied, his voice firm. "And that's why you should conduct it. You've always wanted to maintain control, always doubted my ability to lead. Well, now's your chance to prove you were right. Ethan, if you don't show up at this meeting, you can forget your inheritance, your place in the company, everything," Richard threatened. Sophia held her breath, looking at Ethan with concern. But to her surprise, he smiled. "You know what, Dad, maybe that's exactly what I need. A chance to discover who I am without the weight of the Blackwood name." Before Richard could respond, Ethan hung up the phone. He turned to Sophia, a mixture of fear and excitement in his eyes. "I think I just gave up everything," he said, a nervous laugh escaping his lips. Sophia stared at him dumbfounded. "Ethan, are you sure?" It's a huge decision." He nodded, looking lighter than ever. "For the first time in my life, I'm sure of something. I want to discover who I am away from my family's expectations, away from the business world. And I want to do it with you, Sophia. If you want, of course." Sophia's heart was racing. It was crazy, it was impulsive, but it was also the most exciting thing that had ever happened in her life. "Yes," she whispered, a smile spreading across her face. "Yes, I want to." At that moment, as if the universe wanted to seal their decision, Sophia's cell phone rang. It was a message from Olivia. "You're fired. Don't dare come back to the mansion." Sophia showed the message to Ethan and they both burst out laughing. It was the end of an era and the beginning of another. "Where should we go?" asked Sophia, feeling freer than ever. Ethan started the car, a gleam of adventure in his eyes. "How about we start with Southern California? I've always wanted to explore the coast without the pressure of business meetings." As the Ferrari accelerated down the road, leaving Lake Tahoe behind, Ethan and Sophia knew they were embarking on a journey that would change their lives forever. The future was uncertain, but for the first time that uncertainty was exciting, not scary. On the other side of town, in the Blackwood Enterprises meeting room, Richard Blackwood tried to maintain his composure in front of the investors. Ethan's absence was notable, and the murmurs of disapproval were audible. "Gentlemen," Richard began, his voice tense, "it seems we'll have to conduct this meeting without my son. But I assure you that this will not affect our plans for the company's future in any way." Meanwhile, at the Maxwell mansion, Olivia paced back and forth in her office, furious. Her phone wouldn't stop ringing. It was the executives from New York, anxious for an answer about her move. She looked out the window, seeing the sunset over the lake. For a brief moment, she questioned whether she had made the right choice. But then, straightening her shoulders, she picked up the phone. "Hello? Yes, this is Olivia Maxwell. I'm ready to take over as CEO. I'll be in New York next week." As night fell over Lake Tahoe, 3 lives were taking drastically different paths. Ethan and Sophia towards an uncertain future, but full of possibilities. Richard, struggling to maintain control of an empire that was beginning to crumble, and Olivia embracing an ambition that might cost her more than she imagined. The stage was set for the next act of this drama, where dreams would be tested, relationships challenged, and the true meaning of success and happiness would be questioned. 3 months had passed since that fateful afternoon in Lake Tahoe. The American summer was at its peak, and the scorching heat of Southern California enveloped Ethan and Sophia as they walked hand in hand along the Santa Monica Pier. Who would have thought that working as a waiter would be so tiring? Ethan laughed, running his hand through his now longer and disheveled hair. Sophia smiled, squeezing his hand affectionately. At least you're not washing dishes. But you know what? I've never felt so happy. The last few months had been an emotional roller coaster for the couple. After spending Ethan's savings on expensive hotels and fine restaurants, reality hit them. They needed to work, and for the first time in his life, Ethan had to fend for himself without his name or family connections. It was difficult at first. Nights sleeping in cheap hostels, days looking for jobs that didn't require experience. But each challenge brought them closer, strengthening the bond that began that night by the lake. "Hey, look at this," Sophia exclaimed, pointing to a colorful poster. "They're looking for street performers for the summer festival. You should sign up." Ethan laughed, shaking his head. "Me? A street performer? Why not?" Sophia insisted. "You play guitar beautifully, and your compositions are amazing. The world deserves to hear them." Before Ethan could respond, his phone vibrated. It was a message from his mother, Elizabeth. "Son, please come home. Your father is having difficulties with the company. We need you." Ethan sighed, showing the message to Sophia. "It's the third one this week," he said, a tone of guilt in his voice. Sophia hugged him, resting her head on his chest. "What do you want to do?" I don't know," Ethan admitted. "Part of me wants to go back to help, but another part is afraid of losing what we've built," Sophia completed. He nodded, kissing the top of her head. "Exactly." Meanwhile, thousands of miles away, in an imposing skyscraper in New York, Olivia Maxwell faced the panoramic view of the city, an untouched glass of champagne in her hand. 3 months as CEO of the company had taken its toll. Sleepless nights, constant pressure, decisions that affected thousands of lives. She had achieved everything she had always dreamed of, but why did she feel so empty? Her assistant rushed into the office. "Ms. Maxwell, we have a problem. The merger with Blackwood Enterprises is at risk. It seems they're facing serious financial difficulties." Olivia turned, her eyes widening. "What? How is that possible?" "Apparently," the assistant continued, "since the heir Ethan Blackwood left the company, things have gone from bad to worse. Investors are losing confidence." Olivia felt a tightness in her chest. Ethan. The name still provoked a confused mixture of emotions in her. Anger, regret, and something else she couldn't, or didn't want to, identify. "Schedule a trip to California immediately," she ordered. "We need to resolve this personally." Back in Southern California, Ethan and Sophia had reached a decision. "We'll go back," Ethan said, his voice firm, "but not to take over the company or live the life my father planned for me. We'll go back to help, yes, but on our terms." Sophia smiled, proud of the strength and determination she saw in her beloved's eyes. "I'm with you, no matter what happens." As they packed their bags in the small apartment they rented, Ethan picked up his guitar. "You know what, I think I'll sign up for that festival before we go. Who knows, it might be the start of a new career." Sophia laughed, hugging him from behind. "Who knows, the rebellious heir becoming a music star. It would make a great soap opera, don't you think?" Little did they know that their return to California would coincide with Olivia's arrival, creating a whirlwind of emotions and confrontations that none of them could predict. In Los Angeles, Richard Blackwood faced the pile of reports on his desk, each more discouraging than the last. Ethan's absence had shaken investor confidence more than he cared to admit. Perhaps, he thought bitterly, he had underestimated the impact his son had on the company. The phone on his desk rang. It was his secretary. "Mr. Blackwood, I just received a call. Your son is returning to California." Richard felt a wave of relief and apprehension. Ethan was coming back, but under what conditions? Was he still the same young man Richard knew, or had these months of self-discovery changed him irrevocably. Meanwhile, at the Santa Monica airport, Ethan and Sophia boarded a flight to Los Angeles. Ethan's guitar, now his most prized possession, was carefully stored in the overhead compartment. "Are you ready to meet the Blackwoods?" Ethan asked, a nervous smile on his lips. Sophia took a deep breath, squeezing his hand. "As ready as I can be. As long as we're together, we can face anything." The plane took off, taking them back to a world of luxury and power they had left behind. But now, armed with a new perspective and a love strengthened by adversity, they were ready to face whatever came their way. Little did they know that, on another plane crossing the country, Olivia Maxwell was also preparing for a return that promised to shake the power structures in Los Angeles. The stage was set for an epic confrontation. Past and present loves, corporate ambitions and artistic dreams, all converging to create a perfect storm of emotions and twists. As the planes cut through the sky towards California, fate wove its invisible threads, preparing to intertwine the lives of Ethan, Sophia, and Olivia in ways none of them could imagine. The sun was rising over Los Angeles when Ethan and Sophia's plane landed at LAX. The city pulsed with its characteristic energy, oblivious to the drama that was about to unfold. "Welcome to my world," said Ethan, squeezing Sophia's hand as they descended the plane's stairs. She smiled nervously, feeling the weight of the moment. To their surprise, Richard Blackwood was waiting for them in the airport lobby. His face, normally impassive, betrayed a mix of relief and concern. "Son," he said, approaching with hesitant steps, "it's good to have you back." Ethan faced his father, conflicting feelings crossing his chest. "Dad." "This is Sophia," he said, gently pulling her forward. Richard looked at Sophia, his eyes appraising. "So you're the reason my son abandoned everything?" Sophia felt her blood run cold. But before she could respond, Ethan intervened. "No, Dad. I'm the reason I abandoned everything. Sophia is the reason I discovered who I really am." A tense silence settled between them, broken only by airport announcements. Finally, Richard sighed. "Let's go home. We have a lot to talk about." Meanwhile, at another terminal of the same airport, Olivia Maxwell disembarked from her flight from New York. Her high heels echoed on the polished floor as she walked determinedly, closely followed by her assistant. "Schedule a meeting with Richard Blackwood for this afternoon," she ordered. "We need to resolve this situation as soon as possible." "Yes, Ms. Maxwell," replied the assistant, furiously typing on his tablet. "Oh, and there's one more thing. Ethan Blackwood returned to California this morning." Olivia stopped abruptly, her body tense. "What? He's here?" "Yes, ma'am. Apparently he came back with a companion." Olivia felt a pang of something she refused to call jealousy. "Interesting," she murmured. "Very interesting." At the Blackwood mansion, Ethan and Sophia were greeted by Elizabeth, Ethan's mother. Unlike Richard's cold reception, Elizabeth warmly embraced her son and extended the same affection to Sophia. "It's good to have you home," she said, guiding them to the living room. "You must be exhausted from the trip." As they settled in, Richard went straight to the point. "Ethan, the company is in crisis. Since you left, investors have lost confidence. We need you back." Ethan exchanged a look with Sophia before responding, "Dad, I came back to help, but not on your terms. I have my own plans for the future." "What plans?" Richard questioned, his voice tinged with skepticism. "I want to use my share in the company to create a foundation," Ethan explained, "an organization that supports artists and social entrepreneurs. I believe we can make a real difference, not just accumulate more wealth." Richard looked about to explode, but Elizabeth intervened. "I think it's a wonderful idea, son. I always knew you had a generous heart." At that moment, Richard's phone rang. He answered, his face visibly paling. "Olivia Maxwell wants a meeting this afternoon." The name fell like a bomb in the room. Sophia felt her heart tighten, while Ethan stood up abruptly. "She's here in Los Angeles?" he asked, his voice tense. Richard nodded. "The merger with her company is at risk due to our situation. She came personally to resolve this." Ethan ran his hand through his hair, frustrated. "I'll go to the meeting," he declared. "Ethan, no!" Sophia protested, taking his hand. "You don't owe her anything." He knelt before her, holding her hands. "I need to do this, Sophia, not for Olivia, but for my family, for the company's employees. I promise nothing will change between us." Sophia nodded reluctantly, a lump forming in her throat. Hours later, in the Blackwood Enterprises meeting room, the air was charged with tension. Olivia entered, impeccable in her designer suit, her eyes immediately finding Ethan's. "Well, well," she said, a cold smile on her lips. "The prodigal heir returns." Ethan stood firm. "Hello, Olivia. Let's get straight to the point, shall we?" The meeting that followed was an intricate dance of proposals, counter-proposals, and tense negotiations. Olivia, as cunning as ever, tried to pressure the Blackwoods to sell a significant part of the company. "It's the only way to save what's left," she argued. "You need an injection of capital and confidence that only we can offer." It was then that Ethan presented his foundation proposal. To everyone's surprise, including Olivia's, the idea began to gain traction. "A partnership between our companies to create this foundation," Ethan suggested. "It would show the world that we're committed not just to profit, but to social impact." Olivia stared at him, a mixture of admiration and frustration in her eyes. This wasn't the same Ethan she had known. There was a strength, a conviction in him that she had never seen before. As the meeting stretched into the night, Sophia waited anxiously at the Blackwood mansion. Every minute seemed like an eternity, her mind imagining 1,000 different scenarios. Finally, late at night, the mansion door opened. Ethan entered, looking exhausted but determined. Sophia ran into his arms. "So?" she asked, searching for answers in his eyes. Ethan smiled, a tired but genuine smile. "We did it, Sophia. The foundation is going to happen. And more than that, we managed to save the company without compromising our values." Sophia hugged him tightly, tears of relief and happiness in her eyes. But a question still hung in the air, unspoken but felt by both. And Olivia, what would be her next move in this complex game of power, ambition, and broken hearts? Meanwhile, in her hotel room, Olivia looked out the window at the illuminated city. She had underestimated Ethan and now found herself at a crossroads. Continue with her plans to dominate Blackwood Enterprises, or embrace this new vision of business that, surprisingly, intrigued her. As night fell over Los Angeles, the destinies of Ethan, Sophia, and Olivia remained intertwined, ready for more twists in this plot of love, power, and redemption. The days following the tense meeting were a whirlwind of activities. News of the creation of the Blackwood Maxwell Foundation for Arts and Social Entrepreneurship spread quickly, generating a wave of public interest and approval. The market reacted positively, and Blackwood Enterprises' stocks began to recover. Ethan dove headfirst into structuring the foundation, spending long hours in meetings and making plans. Sophia, determined not to be just a spectator, offered to help, using her life experience and unique perspective to contribute to the project. On a sunny afternoon, as they worked together in the improvised office at the Blackwood mansion, Sophia couldn't help but notice the sparkle in Ethan's eyes. "You look so happy," she commented, smiling. Ethan put down his pen and leaned back in his chair. "You know, for the first time in my life, I feel like I'm doing something that really matters. Something that's truly mine." Sophia approached, gently massaging his shoulders. "I'm so proud of you. You've found your path." He took her hand, kissing it softly. "We've found our path. Together." The moment of tenderness was interrupted by a knock on the door. It was Elizabeth, Ethan's mother. "Sorry to interrupt," she said, a gentle smile on her lips. "But we have an unexpected visitor." Ethan and Sophia exchanged intrigued looks before following Elizabeth to the living room. There, to their surprise, stood Olivia Maxwell. The air in the room immediately became charged with tension. Olivia, elegant as always in a summer dress, seemed out of place and strangely vulnerable. "Hello, Ethan," she said, her voice softer than usual. "Sophia." "Olivia," Ethan replied, his voice neutral. "What brings you here?" Olivia took a deep breath before responding. I came to apologize. To both of you." The statement caught everyone by surprise. Sophia felt Ethan tense beside her. "After our last meeting," Olivia continued, "I did a lot of reflection about my choices, my priorities. And I realized that I made many mistakes." Ethan watched her attentively, his expression a mixture of distrust and curiosity. "What kind of mistakes?" Olivia took a few steps around the room, clearly uncomfortable. "I put my ambition above everything and everyone. I hurt people who were important to me. And in the end, I realized that the success I sought so much was empty. Sophia, who had remained silent until then, spoke. "Why are you telling us this now, Olivia?" Olivia turned to her, her eyes shining with unshed tears. "Because you two showed me something I had forgotten, the power of true love, of integrity. Seeing you together, seeing what you've managed to accomplish, it made me question everything." Ethan stepped forward, his voice soft but firm. "Olivia, I appreciate your words, but I need to know, what do you really want?" Olivia hesitated for a moment before answering. "I want to be a part of this, of the foundation. I want to use my resources, my contacts, to help make a difference. If you'll accept me." The silence that followed was heavy. Ethan looked at Sophia, seeking her opinion. She nodded slightly, a small smile on her lips. "All right, Olivia," Ethan finally said. "We'll give this a chance, but on one condition: total transparency and honesty from now on." Olivia quickly agreed, a relieved smile lighting up her face. "Thank you. You won't regret it." As Olivia said goodbye, promising to return the next day to start working on the foundation's details, Ethan and Sophia found themselves alone again. "Do you think we can trust her?" Sophia asked, her voice low. Ethan sighed, running his hand through his hair. "I don't know, but I think everyone deserves a second chance. And if she has really changed, well, that can only be good for the foundation." That night, as the city fell asleep, 3 restless souls reflected on the day's events. Ethan, in his room, softly played his guitar, composing a melody that spoke of redemption and new beginnings. Sophia, on the balcony, looked at the stars, silently thanking for the path that had brought her here, but also wondering if the ghost of Ethan and Olivia's past would ever haunt them. And Olivia, in her luxurious apartment, looked at an old photo of her with Ethan. With a sigh, she put it away in a drawer. It was time to turn the page to seek a new purpose. But a small part of her wondered if she would be able to see Ethan and Sophia together every day without old feelings resurfacing. As the night progressed, fate continued to weave its invisible threads, preparing the stage for the grand finale of this story of love, redemption, and personal discovery. The weeks that would follow would bring new challenges: the official launch of the foundation, the corporate world's reaction to this new approach to business, and the final test for newly formed and reconfigured relationships. As the sun rose over Los Angeles, announcing a new day, a question hung in the air. Would Ethan and Sophia's love be strong enough to overcome the obstacles that were yet to come? And Olivia, would she really be able to change, or would her old habits and feelings eventually come to the surface? The stage was set for the final chapter of this saga, where all the pieces would finally fit together, for better or for worse. The big day finally arrived. The event hall of the most prestigious hotel in Los Angeles was elegantly and sophisticatedly decorated for the official launch of the Blackwood Maxwell Foundation for Arts and Social Entrepreneurship. The cream of LA society, journalists, artists, and entrepreneurs filled the venue, all eager to witness what promised to be a revolution in the world of business and philanthropy. Backstage, Ethan nervously adjusted his tie in front of the mirror. Sophia approached from behind, placing her hands on his shoulders. "You look great," she said, smiling at his reflection. "And more importantly, you're ready for this." Ethan turned, taking her hands in his. "I'm only ready because you're by my side. You gave me strength when I needed it most, Sophia. You showed me who I really am and who I can be." Sophia's eyes filled with tears. "We found each other, Ethan, and together we found our purpose." The moment was interrupted by a soft knock on the door. It was Olivia, stunning in a navy blue dress. "Sorry to interrupt," she said, a hesitant smile on her lips. "It's almost time. Everyone's waiting." Ethan nodded, taking a deep breath. "Let's go." The 3 of them went out together, an image of unity that no one could have predicted months ago. As they entered the hall, they were greeted by a wave of applause. Richard and Elizabeth Blackwood were in the front row, pride evident on their faces. In recent weeks, they had witnessed a transformation in their son that had left them amazed and finally truly proud. Ethan took the stage, Sophia and Olivia by his side. He approached the microphone, his gaze scanning the crowd before settling on Sophia. With a smile, he began, "A few months ago, I was lost. I thought I knew what I wanted from life, but in reality, I was just following a path that others had mapped out for me. It took a journey of self-discovery, love, and yes, some stumbles, for me to find my true purpose. He paused, exchanging a meaningful look with Olivia before continuing. This foundation is not just about donating money or creating opportunities. It's about redefining what it means to be successful. It's about using our privileges and resources to make a real difference in the world. As Ethan spoke, detailing the foundation's projects and objectives, Sophia observed the audience. She saw tears in the eyes of some, expressions of admiration in others, but what touched her most was seeing the transformation in Olivia. The former rival, who once only cared about power and status, now listened to Ethan with genuine enthusiasm. Sophia realized that Olivia's change was real, and she felt a wave of gratitude for having given her a second chance. After the speech, as guests mingled and chatted animatedly, Ethan pulled Sophia to a quiet corner. "There's something I want to ask you," he said, his voice trembling slightly. Sophia looked at him, intrigued. "What is it?" Ethan knelt down, taking a small box from his pocket. Sophia's heart raced. "Sophia," he began, "you've changed my life in ways I could never have imagined. You showed me what true love is, inspired me to be a better person. Will you marry me?" With tears in her eyes, Sophia answered, "Yes, 1,000 times yes." The kiss that followed was interrupted by applause. They turned to see that they had attracted a small audience, including Ethan's parents and Olivia. Olivia approached, a genuine smile on her face. "Congratulations, you two." "Really?" Ethan and Sophia hugged her, the gesture sealing a new friendship born from the ashes of old grudges. The weeks and months that followed were a whirlwind of activities. The foundation took off, exceeding all expectations. Art projects in underprivileged communities, social entrepreneurship programs, scholarships for young talents. The impact was visible and inspiring. Olivia threw herself headfirst into the foundation's work, finding a satisfaction that the corporate world had never given her. She even started a relationship with one of the artists supported by the foundation, discovering that love could blossom in the most unexpected places. Ethan and Sophia's wedding was a celebration of love and unity. Held on a paradisiacal beach, the ceremony was intimate and emotional. Ethan surprised everyone by playing a song he had composed for Sophia, his words of love echoing over the sound of the waves. Richard and Elizabeth Blackwood, initially skeptical about the new direction Ethan had taken, became the foundation's biggest enthusiasts. They discovered a new dimension in their relationship with their son, based on mutual respect and understanding. On a quiet afternoon, months after the wedding, Ethan and Sophia were sitting by the pool of the Blackwood mansion. Sophia gently caressed her belly, now visibly pregnant. "Have you thought of a name yet?" Ethan asked, his hand over hers. Sophia smiled. "How about hope? After all, it was hope that brought us here." Ethan kissed her tenderly. "Perfect, just like you." As the sun set on the horizon, painting the sky with shades of pink and orange, Ethan and Sophia reflected on the journey that had brought them here. From an unlikely encounter born of a misunderstanding, they had built a life of love, purpose, and positive impact on the world. Their story was a testament to the power of true love, the courage to follow one's heart, and the capacity for transformation that exists in each of us. It was a story of redemption, second chances, and how sometimes one needs to get lost to truly find oneself. And so, as night fell over Los Angeles, Ethan and Sophia knew that this was not an ending, but just the beginning of a new chapter in their lives. A chapter full of promises, challenges, and, above all, love.